Western politicians and media are running a massive scam about this week's poll in Moldova. And I'm going to try and destroy their narrative in just 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm going to use a timer so we can do a countdown. The FT and others are reporting with a tone of outrage that Russia spent large amounts of money to get a particular result in the referendum in Moldova, and even backed street protests in that country. Shocking. Virtually the same message is being given by all the big Western mainstream media. Financial Times says police intercepted schemes funneling money from Russia directly into the bank accounts of more than 130,000 Moldovans. And then here's the BBC. BBC finds evidence of vote buying in Moldova. Here's Oliver Moody in the Times of London. He says the vote was held in the teeth of a lavish campaign of Russian interference. Now, they all write as if they're sure the Russians were boosting one side of that poll. I have no evidence to dispute that. So why am I saying this is a scam? Because the real story is that for more than 70 years, the US has been using exactly these types of political interference methods to try and alter the results of foreign polls and achieve regime change or get US-friendly puppets into leadership positions. This is widely known. What reports like this tend to do is hide the huge US efforts on one side and show only the efforts of anyone trying to encourage the other side. People are actually creating balance in effect. Now, how do I know this? I've never been to Moldova, but I do know the US manipulation system. I'm a Hong Konger, and we saw it being played out right in front of our eyes in 2019. All serious journalists know about this. But if they're hiding that side of the story, they're doing so because they are propagandists or they're incompetent, failing to do their jobs. Let's fill in the gap. Now, people who honestly want the truth, that's you and me, we read this stuff in the FT or the BBC or the Times or whatever and realise that it's very likely the US was using its usual methods to interfere in Moldova to get the result that it wanted. Not covered in the reports. How does one check all this? Now, all the news reports are about interference on one side, none about Western interference. We need to spend a few minutes doing some digging. The questions we need to ask are these. Who else is politically interfering in Moldova? Is the NED there? Is there a Soros group there? Can we make a list of supporting or financing groups present that the FT and the BBC are failing to mention? And what about the IRI or the NDI or the notorious political influence body called USAID? Let's check it out. Okay, I'm starting the clock and let's see how long it takes. Now we're going to look for grassroots political activism in Moldova. Okay, we found one. It's not a well-organized site, and the list of sponsors is in a big random block. Hard to read, and apparently not in order, but okay, if we take the trouble to look closely, we find, look, I'll put this up on the screen. Yep, the National Endowment for Democracy and the European Endowment for Democracy. Pay dirt. Okay, so check one. Next, I found myself thinking, which other groups were involved in causing trouble in Hong Kong? Let's look for the IRI. That's the International Republican Institute, which did a lot of secret cash distribution for the NED in Hong Kong. And they've done the same elsewhere. And here it is, the IRI in Moldova. I'll put it on the screen. Check two. Next, we look for human rights projects in the country. Now, human rights protection is a good thing, but human rights weaponized by the West, that's not a good thing. Yep, and we find a human rights organization in Moldova that is, look, it's pushing a very strong pro-West, anti-East message, right? So, hang on. Just going to stroll down and see who's behind this. Speed read. Yeah, we find a Soros group working with the National Endowment for Democracy in Moldova on human rights. Okay, so that's significant, right? Okay, so check three. Next, we'll look for the NDI. That's the National Democratic Institute. Did they have something in Moldova, just as they did, stirring up trouble in Hong Kong? Oh dear. Uh-oh. Sorry, the Wi-Fi is being super slow. Not a good time. Okay, just talk among yourselves for a moment. Okay, something's coming. Okay, what pops up is this. Lo and behold, the DNI is active in Moldova. DNI is an arm of the NED, so check 4. Next, we look at the Solidarity Centre. Now, they normally hide themselves pretty deep, so it may be hard to find. But maybe not this time. The Solidarity Fund in Moldova. Okay, that sounds like it. Now, I'm just going to scroll down a bit. Okay, look. We find the development partners are USAID and the EU. So, gotcha. Okay, check 5. Okay, I could go on, but let's stop it there. Do you see what I've done? Now, the topic here is foreign interference, and I've spent just a very short amount of time, about 3 minutes, looking to see if Western political interference is taking place in Moldova. And it clearly is, on a very large scale, with multiple groups taking US cash into the country to influence the public polls. Now, they've probably been doing this for decades, just as they did in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, they started about 1993. But here's the key thing. None of this, not one bit, is mentioned in the FT report, or the BBC report, or in any Western mainstream media. They hide the US efforts, and then they go big in mentioning any efforts from the other side, efforts that actually try to balance the US efforts. And the result will be some semblance of fairness. Make no mistake. This is journalistic malpractice. It defies the rules of good, honest reporting. It's dishonesty, pure and simple. And that's why it's absolutely imperative that we all spread the word. Do not trust the Western mainstream media when it is covering anyone on the list of US competitors or rivals or adversaries. That means when they're delivering news about China or Russia or Iran or Venezuela, etc., etc. And that's important to note that the FT and the BBC and Bloomberg and other media do have some good reporters on staff, and they do produce some actual journalism from time to time. So you can't just dismiss everything they do. We have to be careful. We have to sort the wheat from the chaff. Unfortunately, with some outlets, and I'm looking at you, FT, and you, Times of London, it's nearly all chaff. A detailed study by London University and a university in Hong Kong on anti-China bias in the mainstream media revealed shocking results earlier this year. Deep bias. I'll add a link in the comments to a report on that. In the meantime, the urgent message to all of us around the world is stay smart, stay skeptical. Peace.